Regular monthly meeting of Stratford Town Council. The agenda is before you. First of all, I guess the first item of business is to ask anyone to declare any conflict of interest in any of the items that we'll be discussing today. Any conflicts of interest? If not, we'll go to approval of the agenda, and we'll ask for a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll move the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. We'll ask all those in favor to indicate by raising your hand, right hand. Thank you. Okay, so we got approval of that motion carried. Now we'll go to the minutes, regular council minutes, 13th of May. The only thing that I noticed, Harry, is that at one point we say we're supporting the spread of COVID-19. I think it's intended that we would you know, try to fight the spread of it. So I think that just needs to be reworded. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it's in one of the, I think it might be in the closures.
I will certainly look for that.
Okay.
Yes.
That's about the only thing that I noticed. Anybody else notice anything in the minutes that needs to be corrected? Any revisions or omissions?
Your worship, have we read off the acknowledgement of the Mi'kmaq people yet, or is that later?
Thank you for reminding me, Derek. You, yeah, I'd like to do that right off the bat there while I'm thinking of it. No, where is that? I don't have it. I'd just like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we pay tribute to the Mi'kmaq people past, present, and future. So with that, we'll go back to the discussion of the minutes. Any revisions to the minutes? If not, well, I'll ask for a motion for approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll approve the minutes as presented in the package.
Thank you. And do I have, thank you, Councillor Burridge. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Okay, I guess we don't have any presentations today, Robert. So any business arising from the minutes, anything that we're not going to be covering today in our discussions, anything that anyone would like to follow up on?
I'll follow up on any more conversations regarding public meetings.
Yes, I have had discussions with Minister Thompson's office and with Minister Fox and with Minister Alward, and we did, I was told a couple of things that were a little bit different. One, Minister Fox indicated that there would be a revision, as did Minister Alward. However, in discussions with, I'm sorry, Minister Thompson's indicated that there would be an amendment or a change. However, I got a text from Minister Alward indicating that in fact, we will have to make arrangements to have 15 people in a room and maybe have overflow in another room with video feed or something like that, but have social distancing and that sort of thing. So that was where it was left, and so that's what we have to deal with. I understand now that there will be an increase to the number of people that are allowed at a public meeting. I think the talk is now that it's going up to 50 or will go up to 50 in the next phase. So that's basically the situation with regard to that. Any questions on that? Any other business arising from the minutes? If not, we'll go to presentations from the floor. And I guess we don't have any presentations, Robert?
Mayor, I just saw a chat come up. Did we approve the agenda? We approved the minutes. Did we approve the agenda?
I think I asked for approval of the agenda, but if not, I'll go back.
I just saw a chat come up, but maybe.
Is that true, Mary? Did we ask for approval of the agenda? My memory's great, but it's short.
Yes, you did.
Okay, we
Okay.
did, okay.
Yes, Derek approved the.
Okay.
Okay, great.
it.
So I'll go to my report, the mayor's report. It's there in your package. Just a couple of items, I guess, of note there that we're having weekly committee of the whole meetings, I had some telephone conversations with the chair of the board of directors, Crossroads and Area Fire Company. Had a discussion with Mayor Philip Brown and members of the Charlottetown Council, the Emergency Service, Stratford Emergency Services Center, just to, and we did discuss the idea of public meetings, and I encouraged Mayor Philip Brown to also reach out to try to get some clarification on making it easier for municipalities to have public meetings to move forward with some of the proposals that we have, which would require rezoning. Yeah, so one of the highlights also was getting to present the certificate of congratulations to Stratford resident Ryan Llewellyn, who won 2 gold medals at the World Culinary Olympics. And I guess that's about it. Any comments on my report, or any questions on my report? Okay, if not, we'll go to Chief Administrative Officer report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I didn't submit a written report because we've been having the weekly COVID Council Committee, the whole meetings, and you're fairly up to speed on everything that I'm working on, so I didn't submit a report. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Anyone have any questions for our Chief Administrative Officer?
I'm wondering if a report should be for the benefit of the public. Should there be reports attached to this at some point, or do you think everything's covered off?
If they've been reading the weekly COVID committee meeting,
point them
get
to
it that way, but I will be going back. Next month, I'll be going back to normal and submitting a report.
All right.
With that, we'll move to item number 9, Safety Services. We'll ask Chair of Safety Services Committee, Councillor Derek Smith, to provide his report.
Good morning, everybody. Before we start my report, I have 2 brief statements to make to the council. The first statement is, over the past several months, our country has seen our way of life change. The corona situation, and now police emergency services around the world being put under a microscope due to the incident in the United States. I would like to note that we all should feel privileged to live in a community like Stratford. There is a high level of respect between the town citizens and the emergency personnel. The level of professionalism shown by our safety services officials is muchly appreciated, and we should all make us proud to live in our town. That is my first statement. The second statement is this information. Our new town clerk has been named. It is Janine Nielsen. Janine lives and was born and raised in PEI. She worked in a private practice as a dental hygienist for 22 years and switched over to the federal service, first working in the payroll center in Stratford. She has been hired on to be our detachment clerk in Stratford. She's married and a mother of 3. And of course, all her kids are involved in sports. She's looking forward to serving the town of Stratford and the citizens, and I would like to reach out and welcome her to our detachment. Okay, we'll now move on to street lighting. I don't have anything on the agenda. I don't know if Jeremy Crosby has anything. He can step in if he does.
No, I'm good, Derek.
Okay, thank you.
Alder Smith.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the Rcmp report. It's on your screen. Obviously, the statistics are pretty standard for the month. The SOT situation is down, obviously, because of the virus situation that we have going on. Hopefully, the RCMP are under direct orders from Ottawa in regards to what policing duties they can do. It doesn't matter that they're in PEI or Calgary or Vancouver. They all have to go under the same order. So they're being directed by Ottawa, and they're abiding by that rules for the safety of themselves and the public. So the statistics are there. Are there any questions on the statistics from anybody?
Are you, Councillor Smith, in due respect, are you happy with those numbers, with the complaints, 126 complaints and with 6 tickets from 6 members?
Yeah, from what I understand, they're told to hand out tickets in the most dire circumstances, but they're not to set up radar or stop signs because of the contact with public. And that's the reason for the low amount of tickets. Yeah.
When I reflect, I had a couple complaints by email of speed in my area, and I was just wondering, but are they going to react to it or just disregard it?
Yeah, Corporal Dudley, in regards to one incident we had in your area, the Corporal Dudley did go to the complainant, sat down with the complainant for an hour and discussed what, he got his input and gave our input, and they came to a resolution. But yes, that area is going to have to be looked into. Yeah. The biggest problem with that road is that there are 3 speed zones on that road. So we might have to look at a universal speed zone.
And another question I had for you is criminal record checks. How far are we at with that for our own residents to attend our new building and be able to do our criminal record checks? And
yeah, again, that situation is coming out of Ottawa. And again, it's a universal right across Canada criminal records check. So although we're in a situation where we probably can do them, the Ottawa is just saying that, no, we're not going to, the RCMP are not going to do them for now. They're hoping that they're going to get clearance soon, but as of right now, no, they're not being done. There is a private firm in Charlottetown that's doing them, but that is at a cost.
Councillor Smith, I'll just add to that there is quite a backlog in the criminal record checks, and Ottawa is coming up with a plan for the detachments here in Stratford, and I do believe they are doing them in May Point at this point also.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have a third question. Derek, sorry, but about the 6 officers. How many officers do we have working now?
I believe we had 1 transfer out and a new transfer in. So we had a new officer on patrol. But I believe we have all 6 right now.
I was just, I know Constable McConnell is doing work from home, and I think she's on maternity leave. I don't know what it's on, but she's going to, I know, what's the process of replacing her?
Councillor Gallant, just before you go on there, I would appreciate it if you didn't mention specific names due to privacy concerns. So if you just say 1 officer or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I was just wondering 1 officer, and then I think the process is 30 days later they replace her or replace that officer.
The contract reads up to 30 days. They have up to 30 days. But in the case in Stratford, they usually have them named within a week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a remark there, Councillor Smith. I appreciate what you're saying about the RCMP and they're stopping just in cases of extremely high speed or dangerous situations to avoid contact with people. But in this report, they say that they had 8 check stops in the town of Stratford, which would put them in contact with every car that went through that check stop. And being in the business for 30 years myself and check stops and not to get a ticket out of 8 check stops, I just don't understand that, but there probably is a reason. But there are 3 in pairs, and you told us earlier there that the new officer that came in got 3 repairs. I think his first 3 or 4 weeks on the job, which is great. But I'm just looking at the check stops versus the tickets issued or warning. So just a comment. Yeah.
Check stops can be done a number of ways. I mean, you can be seen on a check stop and not seen on a check stop. Sometimes a check stop is watching for, like at an intersection, to see how many people are texting. And those people, if they're seen texting or not wearing a seatbelt, then that vehicle is pulled over and issued a warning or a citation. Sometimes you don't have to stop every vehicle at a check stop, but you can be checked individual vehicles as you go by. So that might be the case in here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I understand that, and I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying with 8 check stops and no tickets or very little tickets is.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, thank you for your acknowledgement.
Councillor Smith and Councillor Clow, just a little clarification, and it might be, you know, with the phases changing so quickly, I think as of June 1st, they are back to doing pretty regular stops on the highway and such. I know that, you know, with each phase, there's new openings that come up with the federal government and the province. So I believe that is the case, but I'll verify that with the RCMP to make sure that's correct.
And I guess I have one more question. I appreciate the information that we have a new clerk starting. Has she started yet, or should be starting this week in our building and RCMP detachment here?
I believe she's presently out of May Point Plaza, but I don't know when she's going to be coming to the Stratford office. Apparently, they need a buzzard on the outside to notify and only allow one person into the office at a time. So it's being worked on. We're a lot closer than we were, put it that way.
Thank you.
Okay. We can go into the RCMP report. Yep, go ahead.
No, just thanks, Derek, and thanks, Jeremy Crosby, there for the comments.
We can go into the monthly report for the RCMP to what happened in the month. They got 3 speeding tickets, 2 moving violations, 1 liquor control act, for a total of 6 charges. And the other stuff is pretty standardized stuff, family-related acts, disturbances, and stuff like that. Any questions on the incidents that we have? Right.
No, that's great.
Okay. All right then. And okay. So having said that, we'll probably move on to Humane Society report. Again, it's a pretty standard month for Humane Society. They had 2 new cases. They closed out 2 new cases. They made 15 patrols of our town, which is great. And their doors at the Humane Society offices are still closed due to the virus, and they're running online and by message center. So any questions on that?
No.
Okay. We'll go down to the transit report. The only good news about transit is that it's up from last month, but the ridership is down, and we all know the reason why. It's just a situation that we're in. I would expect that the ridership will go up once the people go back to work in their offices instead of working at home, but it's just the way it's going to be for a while. And in the summer months, we usually have low numbers anyway. Okay, any questions on transit?
Derek?
Yes.
Sorry, can I just ask a question there with regards to the Humane Society?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just noticing that May 2020 and the year to date are the same figures, and yet their calendar year is April till March. I'm just wondering, should those figures be the April figures? And perhaps there was no cases in May due to COVID.
That's a great question.
Yeah, sorry, Derek, I would have mentioned
And
before. I
I'm
just
probably a
noticed it
little
now.
lax because Humane Society does a great job that I don't pay very much attention to their numbers. I think they do a fantastic job. I know they have a new executive director over there. I've not talked to her yet, but I don't think in my years in councils I've ever received a complaint in regards to Humane Society. So
Yeah.
I can't answer that question, to put it shortly.
This is not a being critical of the Humane Society. I'm just curious if they've made just basically a typo on their report, and just for it to be corrected for next month so that we can have the proper figures. Thank you.
We'll look
Councilor
into
McDonald,
it.
I'll check into that with the Humane Society and Auditor to make sure that those numbers are correct.
Thank you.
All right then. So having the Humane Society and Transit looked at, we'll go to the fire department next. The fire calls for Stratford were 17 last month, which is quite a bit of a jump from the previous months.
Yeah.
We had false alarms 6, fires 6, motor vehicle accidents 3, and assisting other agencies 2. A pretty standard month. Of all the incidents, there was nothing really earth-shattering. I would like to bring up one point. We had an incident on Merriam Drive where a home was burnt. I want to point out that a young person in the house, got up in the middle of the night, discovered that there was a fire in the house, woke up everybody in the house, did not panic, and probably saved lives that night. So I think the fire department is going to be reaching out and issuing a certificate to this young person, and I personally would like to congratulate him on the job well done. It should be noted that the cause of the fire might have been mulch outside the house. So we have to notify citizens of Stratford that if you put mulch around your house, do not put cigarette butts in them. And that is it for the fire department report.
Councillor Smith,
Yes,
may I ask a question about that report?
yes.
I'm just curious, with the 6 fires for the month of May, other than the house fire in Marion Drive, were the other fires, are you aware, were they, open fires in our community or grass fires? And I'm just curious if there was any charges laid as a result of that, because due to COVID, no one's allowed to be having any fires in our community.
I'm not, I don't have those statistics. I can find out and get back to you.
That would be great.
Okay. And maybe in the future, if you want that added to the monthly report, we could probably stick that in what type of fires we've gone to. Maybe that's a situation we should be looking into. Okay. Do we have any more questions on the fire department? Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, I'll close out my report, but I would like to notify the citizens of the town and the council the bridge, Hillsborough Bridge, is now open. And I'd like to thank everybody for their understanding and patience on that bridge during the 6 weeks that we're under construction. And that is it.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Smith. We'll now move on to recreation, culture, and events. We'll ask Chair of Recreation, Councillor Gallant, to give his report.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Today's June 10th, 2020. The committees, naturally, our committees, Stratford Recreation, Culture, and Events committees and subcommittees have not met in person or conference calls since early March. Our committee members have been abreast of planning and developments related to the department through email updates. We look forward to staging meetings again in the future. Our openings with the introduction of phase 2 and phase 3. The dog parks, skate parks are all the open playgrounds and parks, Bunbury outdoor rinks, the soccer fields and so on, baseball and stuff. So we'll see all the outdoor sports are going to be opening here. We're open now, and it's great for physical activity and our mental health, especially during these tough times of COVID there. the closures, some of their closure may close or opening dates to be determined. The town center gym, the walking track and fitness area will be a primary facility, while future consideration for the safe return of summer day camps, introduction to sports programs are being reviewed. So I believe the summer camps are going to be, Jeremy Pierce, you online, mate? The summer camps are going to be open soon?
Yes, we started working on the opening of summer camps as of yesterday, so we're optimistic. June 29th will be the first date we see kids returning to the town center to enjoy that program for the summer.
It's fantastic. And move down to arts and culture. The several arts and culture programs continue to be offered until June 11th. Art club and intermediate watercolor painting classes. So as I continue to well support it, the public art installation of the Red Winged Blackbird by Gerald Bellio is scheduled to be installed at Fullerton's Conversation Park by July 31st. So that's great to see that. The installed Red Winged Blackbird shall be incorporated to design a natural playground for Fullerton's Marsh. And local minor sport programs are offering return to playing program various Stratford fields and courts. The Stratford baseball is opening June 1st. Stratford softball, Stratford soccer, lacrosse, pickleball, and attendance lessons, so on. Also, our meeting rooms are going to be open and are indoors. Our Southport room is 19 people, Bunbury room 14. The Battery, all our other rooms are going to be open. Events, the big event is July 1st. Despite the limitations for large outdoor gatherings, the events committee has been actively planning for an impactful Canada Day celebration for Stratford. Canada Day celebrations will be composed of virtual and in-person events. The following both provide an overview of the virtual will be address from Your Worship Steve Ogden, the Stratford Mayor. The message will be recorded in advance. Old Canada sung in many languages. We're going to have a motorcade, celebrate Stratford of first responders and essential workers on July 1st from 12 p.m. to approximately 1:30 p.m. beginning and ending at Town Center. Residents are encouraged to cheer while physically distancing themselves from the front yards and sidewalks. Of course, we're going to be serving strawberries and ice creams through the drive-through at Town Center July 1st, beginning at 2 p.m. Serving will continue until we run out of supplies. All necessary precautions will be implemented to ensure everyone's well-being. Canada Day home decorating residents and encouraged to decorate for Canada Day. Maybe get those holidays lights back on June 21st to July 1st. Eagle decorating for Canada Day and so on. And I want to thank you, Heritage Canada, for your financial support for the Town's Canada Day celebration. And also to lease the Strafford Youth Center. Since the onset of COVID-19 restrictions, the Youth Center online programs have moved online for the past few months. Programming generally winds up in early June at the Youth Center and will do again this year. The Youth Council will continue to meet once a month over summer, and the Youth Council Leadership Group will work over summer to help Youth Council the new website. The final Youth Council newspaper will be going out the first week of June. And this is Anna's report. Like you say, our staff, led by Jeremy and Tanya and Dwayne and Rachel, are actively busy with meetings over the Zoom due to COVID, what's going on with COVID now. So hopefully June 1st, where everything's getting back, we're not the new norm, but hopefully everybody's getting outside, and it's really important for our mental health and everybody to physical activity and for our residents of Stratford.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Gland. Anybody have any questions or comments on this report?
Councillor Gallant.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Councillor Gallant, I understand that although our facilities are not being used, can you give us an update of any new developments or projects that we have going on in the town?
Well, the gymnasium, it's a good comment to make there. The gymnasium's been painted from top to bottom there. The fitness area, staff has done a great job there painting that. We requested Jeremy Crosby and Pearson's crew, and Tanya and Rachel took it by themselves to do this job, and they painted the pride in the town, and painted the wall there where the gymnasium is there with the equipment, the fitness equipment, the weights and so on. Our bathrooms are cleaned up. It was I guess it's a good thing to have the downtime, but in the meantime we picked up and got things done when we had the downtown.
And I understand that Pondside and Fullerton's Marsh might be getting upgrade soon.
Yeah, with a multi-use park or multi-use courts. Jeremy can speak on that, and with Fuller's Marsh, I'm pretty excited about the playground, but Jeremy, you can elaborate on that?
Sure. Pondside Park, the multi-use courts project, which will see the revitalization of the existing concrete slab. We'll have 5 basketball nets, have a place for cross-court basketball and road hockey games, foursquare, and any other imaginative game a kid or an adult can play on that court. We'll start on Monday. Island Coastal will be overseeing that project. This past week, we also saw the start of the construction of the multi-use washroom and storage facility at Fullerton's. Williams Murphy McLeod is overseeing that project, and we also began working with Cubbiquid Consulting and the Glen Group on the initial designs for a natural playground out at Fullerton's, which will go in conjunction with the public art piece that Councillor Glant spoke of earlier. So that'll be a wonderful addition to our park, hopefully late this summer, early this fall. So we're excited about both of those projects. And just in regards to some other capital expenditures, we purchased 4 new nets for the soccer complex. We purchased a windscreen and installed half of it as of right now. I believe they're working on it again today at the Pondside Court for our tennis players. Our pickleball players have been back up and active. Our cricket players are back up and being active out at T Hill. So it's great to see all our minor sport groups and all of our facilities, with the exception of the gym and walking track and fitness area, being utilized right now.
I understand that we're looking for public input in regards to the natural playground at Fullerton's Marsh.
That is correct, yes. Media release was sent out yesterday. We're looking for feedback prior to the end of the day tomorrow, and we'll send those responses back on to the consulting group for their final design elements.
Yeah, thank you.
I add my voice to encourage residents especially with youngsters in the house, to really look at the plan and really make comments on the plans for that natural playground. I think it'd be very valuable. Unfortunately, we want to get the project done, so we had to sort of compress the time that was available for public comment, but we will be seeking comment over the next couple of days, or I guess by closing time tomorrow. So if you're aware of this, please make every effort to get your comments in before closing time tomorrow.
Exactly.
Councillor Gallant, I just have a question.
Yeah.
The multi-use court in Pondside, so as far as that construction is concerned, will there be much like dirt moving? Is the old court in play now, is that going to be dug up, take out? Is there going to be any earthwork done there at all? Or I guess my concern is with the ponds there, they've had quite a rebound in this quiet time. There's lots of great comments on the ponds and the wildlife, and everything's really looking good there. So you'd hate to see that falter. I'm not sure if there's going to be, I can't see there being much earthwork being done there, but if there is, I guess I would just ask that we kind of keep an eye on that process.
Yeah, you're correct. I mean, the environment there with the pond and how beautiful it is and stuff like that. Even the lighting for the multi-use sporting parks, you got to be careful with that too. But Jeremy, can you add anything to that now?
Yes, we've been working with Island Coastal to ensure there will be earthwork, and we've been working with Island Coastal to ensure that all protective measures are put in place so that there's no runoff down to the water and to those watershed areas. As of right now, I know the project's going to start on Monday. We'll continue to monitor that and be down around there while they're working to make sure that everything stays in place.
Yeah, being as it's so close and so, you know, I know the residents will be watching that process, no question, and they should be. So yeah, we'll have to keep a very close eye on that and make sure that they're doing the best they can to ensure there's no sedimentation or no disturbance to those ponds right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. On the multi-use course, I'm pretty excited about it, Jill. And when I was on the go or grew up, you just had a basketball net to play with. Now with all these 4 or 5 different sports on one court, and hopefully we can spread this around not only Pondside and different areas in Bunbury and different parts of Stratford. So I'm pretty excited about this job, and with Jeremy's, with the recreation's idea here with multi-use courts, and definitely we're going to look at the Pondside with runoffs and stuff like that. That'd be a priority.
Thank you.
I just have a comment, Steve, on Pondside. There's 2 things there, and I believe Jill or whoever mentioned the lighting. I know we've had issues before in the past there on lighting, and we have to, when we do that, have the lighting shining in, not on the water towards the residents. Very important. And I believe we should have lights on there at night, perhaps on a timer, so that they're not on all night, which has happened in the past a few times. The other issue I have, and it's something probably we should look to in the future, and I know it's been mentioned before, but I think we have to look at doing a better job on the parking lot there. I think it'd be nice to have something there that we can have, and perhaps put asphalt down. And it's been an issue in the past. I know it's been mentioned in rainy times. It's really mucky down there with the soil and whatever. But I think that should be our next move in Pondside, is that parking lot.
Yeah, I concur with that, Deputy Mayor Clow. I did raise it at our last council meeting. That I think that we really need to look at that as a budgetary item for next year, because it does take away from the experience of going to that park when it's really muddy and not very pleasant. So we should look at that for next year.
Yep. Yes, thanks for your comments, Your Worship, and Councillor Clow and so on. And I duly noted, I agree 100% with his. That would help things too, with just the bad weather in the fall season and so on, and the weather and the mud and everything else.
Any other comments or questions on the recreation report?
Yes, I have a couple of comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Councillor Glant, the idea that this has gone out to the public with regards to getting their input on option 1, 2, or 3 for Fullerton's Creek, is this going to be going back to council for final decision, or what's the plan there?
I believe so. Jeremy, you can speak on that.
Yeah, so we'll take the input and we'll send it back over to the consulting group, and then they'll come back with another, almost like a final design, and then we'll review that at that stage, and we'll bring it forward at that time for decision. So they're trying to take the 3 proposals that they put forward and mesh it into one. So we'll get another rendering before any decisions are made.
Yes, all our proposals go through Recreation, Arts and Culture, and goes back to council and make the final decision.
Right. I understand that staff really liked option 1, and so did council at our last look at it there yesterday. So just curious about the final decision, and I know it rests with us, but it's of course important to listen to residents' concerns and their points as well, which I'd like to have a copy of that as well.
Sure. We reached out to our committees by email because of COVID, and we're just waiting. I'm back on their comments and commitments there.
From the Recreation Committee? Great. My second point is I'm wondering if we can have a grand opening for the public art installation sometime after it's installed there, after July 31st.
Yes, that'd be great. Oh yeah, that's definitely.
Thank you.
Just a note on the public art piece, on July 31st was our initial date that we had put in place for the install of that, and now artist Gerald Bolio will have it completed by then. But I think it might be a point that we might do the install at the same time as the rest of the park, seeing as there potentially could be some disruption for the trail. So we'll have to make that decision in the future to see if it's best to install it on July 31st, or is it best to wait and do the entire playground and the installation of that public art piece at the same time. We'd hate to see it damaged in any way, shape, or form.
One thing they want to consider, Councillor Gallant and council, is the the fact that Fall Fest, we don't have any specific plans for it now, but that might be sort of something that could be done as part of Fall Fest in September.
Yeah, great idea.
If it's available, you know, if it's going to go ahead, and if it's, you know, the trails are in proper shape for, you know, public to go there. And if we're allowed to have, you know, I imagine at that point it'll be 50 people, but depends on what happens, I guess, over the summer.
Exactly.
Any other comments or questions, Councillor McDonald? No? Anyone else have any comments or questions on the recreation report? Thank you very much for your report, Councillor Gallant. I would just like to take the opportunity to congratulate our Director of Recreation, Jeremy Pierce, and for his, there was an incident at the skate park. He was using our monitoring infrastructure to, on his own time, and noticed some vandalism taking place, and contacted the RCMP, who responded, I guess, fairly quickly, did they, Jeremy? But I think it's really a good proactive and above and beyond thing to do. So thank you for doing that, Councillor or Director of Recreation Jeremy Pierce, and to the RCMP as well for their response.
Yeah, it was, Steve, I can comment too. It was great response, and with Jeremy Crosby and Joe and Jeremy Pierce with the video surveillance cameras was a great thing to have the cameras in the proper place, and it was great to see that how they work, and it's great that they jumped on that. It was great, and stopped that damage to property / graffiti. It was great work, guys.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you for your report, Councillor Gallant. We'll move on to Finance and Technology. Chair of Finance Committee, Councillor Gail McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. The finance report is in your package. Due to COVID, we're not meeting in person yet, but we do reach out through email poll for any comments or decisions that we would like to have the committee's response for. So the asset management team has met, and they finalized the terms of reference. So the asset management policy will be going forward today for council to adopt. E-billing sign-up is also underway, and we currently have 437 customers who have registered for this. Staff attended some asset management module training with Town Suite, and also some web services module training. They're currently working on year-end for the town, business park, and utility, so that's keeping the department fairly busy. They're working on implementing the operational plan for the town office and getting all the signage and cleaning supplies in place. So hopefully everything's ready for grand opening next Monday. They've also been involved with weekly Zoom meetings with managers and staff of the department. The phones have been fairly busy with questions about Renew PEI and also some calls on unsightly premises and complaints. The department has applied for the Essential Worker Program. They're currently researching federal grant programs to see if there's any new funds that have been announced for municipalities. The utility loan for projects from 2010 was up for renewal with 174,000 remaining, so will be a resolution coming up in today's meeting. The auditors are also looking for information from CRA on our accounts and have requested that we pass a resolution to help us get information quicker from CRA. So that resolution is also on today's agenda. The insurance tender was originally planned to be completed this year, but after discussion with the providers of municipal insurance, we're going to stay with our current provider for one more year and hope that the insurance market will improve over the next year. This information has already gone through council. Staff is working on infrastructure and New Deal gas tax claims, and it's working on our new records management system. So that's my report, Your Worship. We also have the town income and the utility income financial statements as part of our package today. Revenue is down by 11%, and expenses are down 8.5%. So a lot of that is related to COVID, especially our revenue. They're all listed there, including a utility income report for finances. If there's any questions on my report or those income statements, either myself or Director Kim should be able to answer. And other than that, Your Worship, I have 3 resolutions today.
Okay, if there are no questions, are there any questions, first of all, on the report or the statements?
Just like to make one comment. I know that it might be a little disappointing to some people that our revenues are down 11%, but overall, I'm well pleased with that number. I think there's other communities in this country that they had those numbers. They would be well pleased also. So yeah, it's a great job in Finance Department. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other comments, we'll move on to the resolutions.
Just one question, Councillor McDonald, noting that our revenues are down and obviously the expenses are down as well, and I don't know if there's a need for it. I brought it up, I think, last council meeting, but whether the staff there are looking at down the road, are they kind of looking at a bit of a reforecast of our budget at all, or looking at that again? Maybe there has to be some tweaks happen. I guess we approved the budget end of March, April, May, June. Like, I don't know what the right timing would be for that, but are we kind of taking a look at that budget and looking down the road to see if there might have to be tweaks? I don't know.
Perhaps I'll just refer that to Kim to give us an update to see if that has been discussed at the staff level at this time.
We have not talked about doing a revised budget at the manager's meeting as of yet, but I can put it on our next agenda to talk about, Jill or Councillor Burridge.
Yeah, and maybe it's not required, Kim, but I guess just to ensure we're on top of it and kind of looking down the road a little bit to ensure that we're keeping things where they need to be.
Yeah, we can put it as an agenda item for our manager's meeting.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say one thing that I really appreciate about this latest report and the statements is that now we're dealing with real-time numbers and not with estimates. And so I appreciate that this is much more meaningful now that we know exactly where we are in terms of revenue and expenditures. So thanks for making that change.
Yeah, I concur too with your worship, with Gail, and being finance chair, it's tough times and with the drop there, but I want to comment how you're caution and doing a good job at this time.
I appreciate that, Councillor Gallant, and your worship. And I was also pleased how they were able to, change the way we've been doing business for the last 20, 25 years there with the town. So it's great. It gives us a clearer picture. I agree totally.
Thank you.
Would you like me to move on to the resolutions, your worship?
Yeah, go ahead. If there are no other questions, we'll ask the chair of finance to proceed with the resolutions. Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. Resolution number FT 013-2020, Asset Management Policy. Whereas the province of PEI, pursuant to section 261 of the Municipal Government Act, RSPEI 1988, cap M12.1, subsection 9, subsection 1, and 9, subsection 2, requires the town of Stratford to have an asset management program in place and an asset management inventory. And whereas the town of Stratford participated in a large cohort training program with other island municipalities and developed an asset management policy whose purpose is to improve the long-term sustainability of our infrastructure, provides the town of Stratford a consistent framework for service delivery and infrastructure planning, provides for a transparent and accountable process to demonstrate the legitimacy of decision-making, which combines strategic plans, budgets, service levels, and risks and climate change mitigation. And whereas asset management will help staff and council make decisions about the use and care of infrastructure to deliver services in a way that considers current and future trends, needs, manages risks and opportunities, and makes the best use of resources. Be it resolved that the attached asset management policy, policy number 2020-FT-1, be hereby adopted. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole as discussed at a meeting held on June 5th, 2020. So moved.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'd like to second that, please.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Smith. Now, discussion. Anyone have any questions or comments about this resolution?
Councillor McDonald, this is just not pointed towards Stratford. This is for every town and city and PEI. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, of course, this is our asset management policy, but yes, we're all governed under the MGA to have one in place. Is that what you mean, Councilor?
Yes, exactly. So it's just not Stratford alone. It's for every town and community to have this in place.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a requirement of the Municipal Government Act to have an asset management policy in place. This is our asset management policy, and correct me if I'm wrong, CAO Hughes, it is different than in our town than in other towns and cities. Is that correct? We've made some specific changes.
Yeah, this policy was adapted as a template from the AIM network, which we're participating with a number of other larger municipalities in PEI and an asset management training program put on by the AIM network. Every community is different in where they are in the asset management journey. We're probably a little further along in the work that we've done over the years to informally manage our assets. What we're doing now is just formalizing that process and putting a policy in place to state what it is that we're trying to achieve and how we're going to do that. So other communities may have similar wording in their policies, but everybody's at a different stage in their journey.
Okay, thank you. And I guess one of the benefits of this, it'll help us with our budgeting process and with our planning and that sort of thing. So it's good to have it in place. Thanks for all the work on this, staff, and yourself, Chair Councillor McDonald, and CAO Hughes. It's great work. Thank you. So if there are no other questions or comments, we'll proceed to the question. No other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. My next resolution is FT014-2020, Utility Loan Renewal. Whereas a loan for utility capital projects from 2010 has expired in the amount of approximately $174,000 with an amortization of 10 years remaining on the loan, and whereas the amount of the loan requested for the Stratford Utility Corporation is $174,000, with option 1 being a 5-year term and amortization remaining option 2 being a 10-year term and with amortization remaining. And whereas the amount of the loan requested of $174,000 is within the 10% capital debt threshold of the town of Stratford, the current borrowing limits for the town of Stratford based on our total assessed tax base, which is $829,534,696 times 10%, that equals $82,953,469, of which we are using $8,839,771 as of March 31st, 2019. And whereas we requested proposals from the following institutions: the Bank of Montreal, Provincial Credit Union, CIBC, Royal Bank, Scotiabank, and TD Bank. And whereas the request for proposals closed at 1:30 p.m. on June 8th, 2020, and whereas the following 5-year rates and 5-year term were received from CIBC 2.96, Royal Bank 2.83, TD 2.05, Provincial Credit Union 3.24, and Bank of Montreal 2.55. And whereas the following 10-year rates and 10-year term were received: CIBC 3.64, none available from the Royal Bank. TD rate was 2.40, Provincial Credit Union was 3.56, and Bank of Montreal 3.42. Be it resolved that the tender for the loan with an amortization of 10 years remaining will be awarded to TD Bank for a 10-year term at a rate of 2.4%. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Finance and Administrative Committee as submitted via email poll on June 8th, 2020. So moved.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Okay, any discussion on this? Any comments or questions? If not, we'll proceed to the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. Please proceed with your next resolution.
Yes, my third and last resolution today is FT 015-2020, CRA request for authorized delegated authorities. Whereas the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, allows for delegated authorities to access business account information online or by telephone, and whereas Robert Hughes, Chief Administrative Officer, CAO, and Kim O'Connell, Director of Finance and Technology, will from time to time need to contact the CRA to access information related to the business accounts of the town, be it resolved that Robert Hughes and Kim O'Connell be authorized as delegated authorities for the CRA business accounts of the town of Stratford, business number 140755786, the Stratford Utility Corporation, business number 893511683, and the Stratford Business Park, business number 874806722. So moved.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Just a question. We don't have the Seniors Corporation in there. Should that be there as well?
Ms. O'Connell, I wonder if you could address that. Yes. Is that necessary?
The seniors complex we would have to do under the seniors, like at one of your committee of the whole meetings, you guys would branch out into the seniors complex.
So it's not necessary to have it in this resolution then?
No.
Okay.
It's a separate entity.
Okay, any other? Sorry, go ahead.
The question is, do we have to do that for seniors? Is that also a advantage to us, or do we just leave it as is?
The paperwork's already done for the seniors complex. We didn't need to get that one updated.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to do it then. Okay, that's not a problem.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll proceed to the question. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your report.
Welcome.
Councillor McDonald. Okay, next item on the agenda is Planning, Development and Heritage. Chair of Planning, Development and Heritage, Councillor Burridge.
Yes, we have not had any planning and heritage committee meetings as of yet, although we hope to start up very soon. As far as what we're working on, there's been lots of building permit applications, and that seems to be picking up now that it's been opened up. So the staff has been really busy on that end, and you'll see the report summary in the package of what exactly has been going on that end. Blaine, the town planner, has been reviewing the official plan. We are looking at having an official plan review done this year. So we are working on that. And also one other item of note is staff are working on a kind of a plan B scenario for being able to carry out public meetings for rezonings and essentially rezonings and other public meetings that might be required by the town. So they're working on a plan B there, as we've been not getting necessarily an urgent response from the province. It doesn't seem to be an urgent item that they're tending to right now. So we thought it pertinent to go ahead and start figuring out a plan for that, as there are projects waiting in the wings. So they're working on that. Is there anything you wanted to add there, Kevin?
I don't think so, Councillor Burge. We do have our new plan development technician that has started with us on a permanent part-time basis. So maybe may want to mention that.
Yeah. So Sarah Kennedy is back with us at the town of Stratford. We're all familiar with Sarah. So Sarah is back with us again. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations, and thank you to Sarah. And also, just on a point you mentioned about the priority with regard to the provincial government, it was considered at cabinet, and I guess the decision was that it would basically remain the same, and that we should try to fit it in within the existing rules. The current they took the decision not to change the Municipal Government Act or the Planning Act to change the definition of public meetings. So it was, I guess, treated as a priority and was decided. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so we're working on a way to approach public meetings within the town of Stratford to get some of those projects off the ground, which are, you know, part of economic recovery. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out and ensure that the public are heard in each of these rezonings and different projects around town. So we'll, that's always a priority, and we'll work on that. Is there any questions?
I understand that we have some major developers contacting the town about helping the town with businesses and development. I would like to say that I welcome these inquiries. You can give us any update on something like that. What if that is indeed the case? Major development contacting the town.
Well, maybe Kevin can give us some background on that, if there is background.
Is there a particular thing that you're referring to, Councillor Smith? I'm not.
No, I just overall. I mean, I with what we have on the planning board and possible what is to come. I think these developments are major developments, and that just like to make, if you could comment whether or not that this is indeed the case.
If I could interject, Councillor Smith, you were part of a confidential discussion we did have with a developer, and I think it's a bit premature to discuss that as it's currently being considered. Not, I don't think we can really say too much about it at this point. So maybe we could defer that until we know more about what the plans are.
Yeah, no, I was referring to the two plans that we have on the books right now up for planning.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the two plans that are on the books that we're looking at is the Redham Meadows development and the Aintree development are the two developments that are sitting on our desk there waiting for a public meeting. So those would be the two that that I guess are ready to go to public meeting once the parameters are set on how we're going to approach that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Otherwise, I'll move on to the resolutions. And
Still have a question, Steve. Commercial new there, is that a Kinloch Creek crossing there, or is that the new commercial? Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that too, Steve. I mean, Kevin would have the background there, but yeah, that's all. And there's a lot of development there happening at Kinloch Crossing. Yeah, and yeah, Kevin might be able to provide more detail.
Yeah, that's great to see. And of new business come across the bridge, and especially at these times, right?
Excellent. Yeah.
The commercial that you're seeing in the report for this month are two new commercial buildings going at the Sobeys Plaza, standalone buildings. There's no interior fit-ups proposed for them at this time. This is just the shells of the building, so we don't know exactly who's going to be in them yet. But there are some applications in for Kinloch Plaza, but nothing that's been approved yet, and they don't make it on the report until they're actually approved.
Gotcha. Thanks, Kevin.
So this is beside Shoppers Drug Mart to the left, if I'm looking at it, Kevin?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Gallant. There's two standalone buildings. The area that's not paved there, so it's going to complete that. It's going to complete that whole area there, and they're all going to front out onto the paved area where you go over to access the Shoppers Drug Mart now.
That's great. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Councillor Berry?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question there with regards to the accessory structures. 3, 7, 9. Do you happen to know now, would these be decks or pools or under the et cetera category?
The accessory structures. So yeah, there'd be probably a mixed match of pool, deck, etc. Kevin could probably give you more detail if you're looking for something in particular.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many are pools.
If you're to, Councillor McDonald, if you're to scroll up on the report, there's a whole section for accessory structures, and they are, there's a mixture of, you can see by the value, the more expensive ones are typically your pools, and the lesser ones are smaller accessory structures like decks and small accessory buildings.
Okay, so my follow-up was, so we ensure that proper fences are built, and would the permit for a fence be included in that, Kevin, or?
Yes, it is required, and there are very specific requirements within the bylaw that how the fence is constructed, and any gates on the fence must be self-closing and self-latching. That's all part of the application and permit that's issued to them.
Okay, so it would not be listed under the fence, which is further down in the report?
That's correct. It would all be part of the pool application.
Okay,
yes.
Excellent. Okay, and of course we follow up on that, or do we follow up through a complaint process, or does our staff have a look around?
No, there's a requirement that they're to contact the town when everything is done to confirm that everything has been constructed as per the permit that was issued.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. I know this year a lot of people seem to be wanting to put pools in, of course, and so it's great that we keep an eye on that. It's very important for safety. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll proceed to the resolution. Are there any other questions? Okay, please proceed with your resolution, Councillor Burridge.
Okay, so these are two resolutions, both street names, and I will start with the first. Number PH 010-2020-Forest Trails-street name. Whereas the Forest Trails subdivision will require a new private street name for the next phase of development, and whereas the Heritage Committee has suggested the following street name, Chester Thomas Way, and whereas Chester Thomas Balderson was killed in action in the First World War and his family owned and farmed this property for many years. Be it resolved that approval be granted to the following street name for the Forest Hills subdivision, Chester Thomas Way. And this was this taken, I guess it bears no recommendation from any committee, does it, Kevin?
That's correct, Councillor Burrs. There was no committee meeting, so
yeah.
It's a request that came forward from the Heritage Committee. So the Heritage Committee are the ones that propose it. We typically would take it to Planning Board, but it had been forwarded to the COVID Committee, which is Council, for their discussion. But I didn't put it on as a recommendation from there because they don't provide a recommendation.
So I would add "so moved" to the end of that and put it up for discussion.
Yeah, and just to clarify that, it was discussed. I recall that this did come to our committee of the whole meeting, weekly committee of the whole meeting, so it was recommended at that point. Okay, any comments or questions on this resolution?
Do we have a seconder yet for that motion?
Sorry, yes. Do I have a seconder? Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you.
I'll move second, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I have a comment. I'm wondering if the Heritage Committee did check in with the family, and indeed was Chester Thomas their choice, or would they have preferred to have their surname recognized? Does anyone know that?
I was asked to actually check in with the former owner of the property, Roger Balderson, and I did speak with Roger about it. Because Balderson's has already been used within the area, we have to have street names that don't conflict to meet 911 civic addressing guidelines. So that's why the Heritage Committee chose to use the first name in the naming of this street.
Okay, I wasn't aware that we had a Balderson. Do we have Balderson in Stratford?
Balderson Court is in Forest Trails. It's the new public street that's just been just been opened. So that was why we need the additional name.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, we'll proceed to the question. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, and you have another resolution, Councillor Burridge?
Number PH 011-2019 McKinnon Drive to Marion Drive connection street name. Whereas a new street is being constructed to connect McKinnon Drive to Marion Drive, and whereas the Heritage Committee has suggested the following street name, Purley Drive. Whereas W. Purley Much grew up, married, and raised his own family in the brick house on Stratford Road. And whereas the new road extends down the farm on which Purley worked his entire life, and the barn which existed on this property was built by Purley for his Holstein cattle, later became a popular restaurant before burning in the 80s. Be it resolved that approval be granted to the following street name for connection between McKinnon Drive and Marion Drive, Purley Drive. So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, discussion. And again, this was discussed. I believe it was discussed. I recall that seeing this, discussing it. It was discussed at committee of the whole, was it not, Robert?
Yes, Your Worship, that's correct. Both these resolutions probably should have said bears a recommendation of committee of the whole.
Okay, yeah. Okay, any discussion or comments or questions?
Your Worship,
Yes.
I don't believe this was discussed unless I had to step away, and I apologize for that. And of course, I agree with the name, and of course, we already have a Much Drive in our town. That's our policy, right? That these suggestions come from the Heritage Committee?
That is correct, Gail. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I just really, if this didn't come to council, I think it's important that that it come the month before the resolution would be great. And it's okay. Once again, I apologize if it did and I had to step away from the meeting. Thank you.
Could you clarify that, Robert, or CAO Hughes, to make sure that this was discussed, and if not, that in future that they do come to committee of the whole prior to a resolution of council?
Yeah, it was both names did come to that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I recall,
Both were discussed, and the feedback from council at that time was to try to reach out to the families to ensure that that name did work with them. And to your point, Gail, on your Balderson question earlier, that was precisely what came up in committee of the whole. So staff were directed to reach out to the families to ensure that these names that were presented, that they're happy with them.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Burridge. I did bring that up, and because I think it's important that the family have input on this. So that's great. Thank you.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay. Any comments or questions? If not, we'll proceed to the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for your report, Councillor Burridge. Great that we're getting some activity in the development field and making some jobs and economic activity. So really glad to see that. And hopefully we'll get to be able to find out a good process for having a public meeting, and we'll be able to proceed with those two projects that are sort of being held in abeyance. Okay, we'll move on to infrastructure. I'll ask Deputy Mayor Clow to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've had no infrastructure meeting, as you know, because of COVID-19, and we're hoping to get back with meetings in perhaps July or August. We'll look at that. Report, the wastewater treatment plant update. The annual spring turnover of the lagoon system is still affecting operation of the facility. The sludge removal operation at the facility has been completed, and staff is working diligently with the system by adding natural products and adjusting operations to help the system return to normal. The wastewater collection system, the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant, the work continues on the pump station with approximately 75% of the structure shell completed. The expansion joint replacement work on the bridge is complete. as well as the pipe installed by the horizontal directional drilling. The structure work under the bridge will begin in the next week or two. And as Councillor Smith alluded to earlier, the bridge now is wide open, the 4 lanes, and we're back to normal. And it's great. Everybody's happy. I've talked to 3 people on the phone that just can't believe that we're back to normal. And so that's good news.
Yeah.
Inflow and infiltration reduction strategy. There's 12 manholes were repaired to prevent infiltration of groundwater into the sewer system. And 200 manholes were inspected to identify where further repairs are needed. And manhole tray liners continue to be installed. Investing in Canada infrastructure programs update. The sewer lift station upgrades. Coles have completed the preliminary design report. Their findings indicate extensive upgrade required to the gravity mains along Kinloch Road from the intersection of Keppick Road and Stratford Road to the Bayside pump station to divert flows from Pondside to Bayside. They also indicate the need to upgrade the Thor's main from Corey's and Bayside station. This results in approximately 4,200 meters of pipe replacement to proceed with this change, which was not anticipated. After some department discussions, Coles had been asked to assess the possibility of pumping Corey Station directly into the trunk main at McKinnon Drive. This would result in approximately 2,500 meters of new pipe along the upgrade to Corey Station. We are presently awaiting Coles' proposal to complete the changes of the scope. The water station upgrade, CBCL, has begun to design for the upgrade and is expected to submit a pre-designed report for review this week. The hearing loop system for council chambers. The 4 assisted listening devices for council chambers are in place and functional. We are in the process of purchasing a router that will allow users to download an app on their mobile device and listen using their headsets. This should be completed in the next couple weeks. The Provincial Active Transportation Fund, the RFP for the Georgetown Road, sidewalk and bicycle lanes extension is out and will be closing on June 10th. And the RFP for the Keppick Road multi-purpose trail is out and closes June 17th. These projects are contingent on 50% funding through the Provincial Active Transportation Fund. As mentioned earlier, the Fullerton Washroom Facility, Williams, Murphy, and McLeod have mobilized to the site and are ready to begin construction. And the Fullerton's Natural Playground, Cobequid Trail Consulting and Glen Group Limited have prepared concept plans of the playground and are currently being reviewed by staff and council. Construction is planned to begin this summer. In addition to the above, infrastructure staff have been busy, extremely busy cutting grass from the sports fields, town properties, landscaping and gardening operations, speed hump installation and placement of speed radar trailers are all out throughout the town, trail grooming and maintenance throughout the town, sports field preparation for the upcoming season, sewer lift station maintenance, the hydrant maintenance program has also started. So during the month of May, there was no major issues with our water distribution or wastewater collection system. So that's my report, Your Worship. So any questions, I'll try to answer them, or I know Jeremy Crosby will certainly answer them.
Yeah, thank you for your report, Deputy Mayor Clow. I just had a couple. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all those involved on the Pipe to Charlottetown project. I guess the work on the bridge went, a couple of days over what it was forecast, but to be that close, and I know that people were incredibly patient. Thank the residents of Stratford for their patience, but I know that the project had lots of bumps along the way, and it's sort of like electricity. It's invisible to people like myself, that don't really know. So there are lots of things that staff are dealing with, and I know that really are problems that are solved, and just through discussion and imagination and creativity. And so I really appreciate the work that's being done behind the scenes to keep this project on track and on budget. And so it's greatly appreciated, the work that's being done there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that goes out to Jeremy and Jeannie and then infrastructure staff that are on site at the wastewater treatment plant every day working. And you know, they're to be congratulated because you know, we're coming close to the finish line in this project. And hopefully, you know, in October or sometime in October or in November, we're going to be able to turn that switch and turn everything to Charlottetown and start working on our project on the waterfront.
Absolutely. Thank you. My second question has to do with the fecal counts. I know that the shellfish closure did create a lot of angst and, you know, discussion, and it caused a lot of hardship for several, you know, the shellfishers. Any update on that, on what our fecal counts are now? Is the closure back, is the shell fishery now back open, or have you heard anything in that regard?
Turn that over to Jeremy Crosby. He can speak to that.
Mayor Ogden, we did get a set of samples back yesterday that were below the guidelines of our conditional management plan. However, the samples leading up to that were over the guidelines. So it is a decision of the Department of Fisheries and Environment Canada, but from what I understand, it still will be 7 days at least before the fishery would be reopened based on the set of samples that we took. But we will have to continue to sample as we go along. So like I said, the samples we took yesterday were just under the requirements. So we're monitoring it very closely, but staff have been busy down there trying to adjust the plant functions and add some natural chemical to get the sludge to settle out. It's unfortunate that we were not able to remove all of the sludge. We had to cease operations a little bit early because of the fishery opening when it did. There was some confusion about whether or not the fishery was going to open on June 1st or June 8th. I believe that if we had have got all the sludge out, that we probably would have been in a better position, but things are starting to stabilize now, and we're very hopeful that the plant will get back into normal operation soon.
Thank you.
I guess if there's an upside to that, you know, this is our last year dealing with this, and you know, especially with the odors down there and dealing with the shell fisheries, and it certainly will make their life a lot easier. They'll not have to be worrying about that, as they do probably every year. So that there's a good upside to that, and hopefully it'll be sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, any other comments or questions on Deputy Mayor Clo's report?
Deputy Mayor, I have a question, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Deputy Mayor Clo, do you have a timeline for the decommission of the lagoons? Has everything been pushed back?
Well, I'd probably let Jeremy answer that, but I believe it's it'll be, well, I'll let Jeremy answer.
Councilor McDonald, as soon as the facility is, or the new pumping station is up and running, and we have it running for at least a month so that we know that there's no issues and all the bugs have been worked out, we will immediately start decommissioning after that. So we're hopeful that probably, you know, late October, November, we'll start the decommissioning of the system. And like I say, the wastewater will be pumped to Charlottetown. We need a month to monitor things to make sure everything's working properly, and then we will start the decommissioning immediately. We're already working on plans on how we're going to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the report, infrastructure report? Okay, if not, thank you for your report, Deputy Mayor Clo. And again,
can I say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Glenn.
I'm mute, but job well done, Jeremy and Gary and so on, and Your Worship too. I mean, you guys' patience for this has been going into 9 years, which is 2011. You know, and it's great to see your patience and your professionalism and everything else, and with Jeremy Crosby so on, get this job done. And it's nice to see some work done when you come across the bridge, see some infrastructure being done in the town of Stratford. So great job, boys.
I just want to mention that Jeannie Gallant has had a big a job in this picture. She's done a very good job dealing with the contractor. I've also been involved because of the scope of the project, but just want to mention Jeannie that she's doing a great job managing the project too. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, Jeremy.
The other thing that maybe could be pointed out as well is that we built a $7 million emergency services building during the same time period at the same time. So it was a lot of projects going on at the same time, and staff were able to successfully deal with them. So that's great. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll thank Deputy Mayor Clow for his report, and we'll move on to Committee of the Whole. And we have a resolution here, and I'll ask Deputy Mayor Clow to read that as well.
I don't have that in front of me, Your Worship.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll ask Chair of Finance. I'll ask the Chair of Finance, Councillor Gail McDonald, to read the resolution.
Certainly, Your Worship. Resolution number CW004-2020, Council Remuneration and Allowances Commission. Whereas 1/3 of Council's remuneration was considered non-taxable by the Canada Revenue Agency until the rule was changed on January 1st, 2019 to remove that benefit. And whereas Council remuneration is reviewed periodically to ensure that Council members are fairly compensated for their duties and expenses, and many municipalities have reviewed Council compensation following the CRA tax ruling change. And whereas Section 82 of the Municipal Government Act requires Council to appoint an independent remuneration and allowances commission to review and to make recommendations to Council before altering existing types, rates, and conditions of compensation, allowances, or benefits to be paid to members of Council. Be it resolved that a Council Remuneration and Allowances Commission be hereby established, that the attached terms of reference for the Commission be approved, and that the following members be appointed to the Commission: John McQuaid, Chair; Mike Farmer, Member; Ray Murphy, Member. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole as discussed at a meeting held on June 5th, 2020. So moved.
Okay,
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion.
I'd like to make a comment, and I have a question. I understand that this is only a study that we're going to be looking into. This is not set in stone about any raises or anything like that. That'll be discussed at a future date. That's my comment. And my question is, the 3 people that we have named, are they from the Stratford area?
You're
Yes,
asking.
they all live in town, yes.
3 residents of Stratford, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Burridge.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute. This did go through Committee of the Whole, and I spoke against it then, and I just wanted to speak against it here. I guess where I'm coming from is timing of this. I'm not against a review. I would want people working in this capacity to be paid fairly. I'm not against a review, but you know, this spring we raised taxes, residential and commercial, and it was a fiscally responsible decision to do so. We had some pressure points there that we had to deal with, and you know, and that was a way to deal with it. So we did raise the taxes. You know, water and sewer rates went up as well. And with Gail's group and the finance committee and the staff, like the water and sewer rates were minimized as much as they could be, which I thank them for. Budgets have been tough since I came on. And I guess with this resolution before us right now, with all that, raising the taxes, water and sewer going up, and now we have this backdrop of COVID-19 and an extremely, it's significant backdrop with a struggling economic environment. Our residents and our businesses are struggling, as all you know, and it's going to get worse, absolutely. I just think this is the wrong time for this initiative, And I think this time should be focused on how we can help in a major recovery over the next months and years. And like I said, I'm not against a review. I think that, and please, the veterans, tell me, but like if I'm wrong, because I'm not up on this process, but what I would like to see is a review done and at a set schedule or a more predictable schedule, and not necessarily then we're not being reactive to changes that happen, such as the federal government tax code change, that it would be set so that you would have the review done, and just prior to a municipal election, then you would have the review done, and then this council would approve whatever that is through that review, how that comes back, and if there is, it kind of keeps us on par with other municipalities. So the review would be done, and this council would make that resolution just prior to the municipal election, and then that council coming in wouldn't have to deal with that until just prior to their term, and that way you're not setting your own wages, I guess, or I guess, you know, trying to avert that negative attention that would likely come through a process like that, I'm sure. But that way it's more predictable, expectations are set, and it's not necessarily reactive. So that's what I would like to see happen with something like this. And again, I just think right now is just not the time to be doing this. And that's my thoughts.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Burridge. Any other comments or questions people want to ask about this?
Your Worship, if I could.
Go ahead.
If I could go to Councillor McDougall and then Deputy Mayor Clow.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything that Jill has just, or Councillor Burridge has just said. Timing is one of the very important pieces here, and I don't think the time is right. I'm all about fair market. If the market suggests that we should get a certain pay, then that's what I'm all about. I don't think it was that dated, the previous review for our compensation. It was prior, obviously, to the restructuring of the taxes, but I think that I do concur with Jill. Oh, sorry. And yes, regarding her suggestion that we implement something that's a regular occurrence, that's not a surprise to anybody. I like that suggestion, and I think we could talk about that moving forward. But as it stands now, I'm against doing it right now for the very reasons that Jill has cited here, and I do support her position.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Mayor Clow?
Yeah, I think, you know, that the question, what we're voting on here is a three-person commission, and for a review. And Councillor Burridge, you did say you're not against review, and I take it you're not against the three persons that are being named in this proposal. You know, like, all we're asking for is what is fair and comparable to other municipalities with similar populations. And you know, I think we have a good terms of reference for the three-person committee to look at. We have previous studies that they can go through if they so desire. But you know, and as far as timing goes, when is the right time? It's never the right time. And I think we just want it to be treated fairly. And if we go by what you people are saying, you know, we have major projects going on right now, and we're looking at more major projects. Should we put them aside and say, oh, it's not the right time? And with COVID-19 and what's going on, should we be doing these projects? Is it the right time? Because there's going to be tax implication with them. So it's never the right time, you know. And so I think it's time that we do this. They'll come back with a report that we'll look at and we'll debate as mayor, as council and mayor, and decide to go forward with that or not. So that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask the other councillors to weigh in on this. I think this is a very important issue in light of some of the comments that have already been made. So I'll call on Councillor Gallant next to make comments or to take a position on this.
I know I voted for it last week, and the last couple of days I thought about it, and I'm going to concur there with Jill and Darren. It's timing with the optics. I saw the terms of reference, the severance package, severance pay, and so on, pensions and all that. We're not big enough like that. We're not the city of Charlottetown. We're not the city of Summerside. We're not that big. We're a small community. And I know, Gary, we have to go back. We have to go back to this. We have to go back and look at it. But the optics right now, and if it goes out there, it's us looking for a raise. That's the optics you're going to see. And we're looking for a raise. And the time right now, COVID, the unemployment rate, Gail said went down from 11% to 8.5% there. Things are going down. The optics right now, I'm all for benefits and so on, and a job well done. But right now, the optics is not good. So I'm just, I walked to the Cotton Park many days here thinking about it, and I'm not in it at this. I'm just trying to help the citizens, residents of Stratford. Just the way right now, the optics and the tough times people are having, it's, you know, and I seen that when I was working, and I hear it in my previous job and so on. So there's tough times out there, and the optics right now is not. The committee going together, it looks for a raise, and I just don't want to be casting that stone.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Call on Councillor Smith now to give his comments.
My view is that I like to have the commission only because it will answer our questions that we've been all asking here today. There's three ways the commission can make their decision. They can go with status quo, an increase in benefits and or salary, or a decrease in benefits or salaries. That is the commission's basis. I understand the commission will be asking each individual councillor and the public to their input. I believe that's part of their mandate, and I'm okay with the study.
Thank you for your comments. I'll ask Councillor Gail McDonald to give her comments.
Certainly. I agree with Deputy Mayor Clow that the timing is never right to discuss an issue such as this. Back when we did the council remuneration review back in 2017, we had no idea that the federal government at that time was going to make this major change after 70 years in 2019 to impact our bottom line. So many councils across Canada dealt with it. We did not in 2019, and we're 6 months into 2020 and finally getting it to this stage. And as Councillor Smith brought up, certainly we're not asking for a wage. We have an independent remuneration commission that's going to look at everything, and they'll make the decision. So to Councillor Burridge's point that we are giving ourselves a raise, that is not the case. I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves and future potential councillors if we don't have a fair remuneration policy in place. Also, certainly if any current councillor feels uncomfortable or does not wish to accept perhaps any increase or their salary, their current salary, they would have the option to not accept it or perhaps donate it to a charity of their choice. Some certainly citizens feel all politicians are overpaid. Well, this study will show one way or the other whether we are or not. And of course, we intend to reach out to the public for their views, as well as whatever the councillors or their opinion on this matter. I feel that this year it wouldn't have to be a budget item. We have approximately 40,000 in the council budget there for our FCM annual convention, which has not taken place this year, and also other travel and business-related expenses. So certainly for this year, I can't anticipate that it would be anywhere near that amount. So I'm sure that we could just move the budget line item to address perhaps any possible increase that we would get. And certainly any remuneration that may come of this will basically be going back to the CRA sort of thing for taxes. It won't be to line anybody's pockets. So those are some of my comments there today. I also feel that Deputy Mayor Clow brought up a good point that today we're just, appointing a commission. And we agreed to these 3 people. And they also agreed to come on board to have a look. So I think we should move forward. And then whatever their decision is, we can live with that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for your comments. I guess this is an important issue, but I think it's quite clear what the positions are on this. I'll just give my comments. I guess I can see both sides of this issue. I can see the fact that there is a feeling from some people who have been on council for a while that we should look at this and really try to take into account some of the things that have happened. The loss of 30% of our non-taxable income, or making it now taxable that previously wasn't taxable. The fact that our councillor to citizen ratio is pretty well the same, and in fact greater than some of the other municipalities that where the compensation is quite a bit higher. But I also understand the point that the timing probably couldn't be any worse in terms of all the things that have happened as a result of the virus. I really think that this virus has changed everything, and I don't think people will really understand that even though it's only a study, that we are looking for more money at this time when other people are struggling. So for that reason, I can't really support the study at this time. Now we have a couple of options here. We can, the mover of the motion could withdraw it, and we could present it later prior to the budget, have the study done prior to the budget being done for next year and consider it as a budgetary item, or we could have the vote now. So I'll procedurally, I guess, CAO Hughes, you can guide me on this. Are there any procedural things that we can do to ask that this be brought forward at a later date, but that we would, I really support the idea of the study. I think it's important that this be done once and for all, and by according to the Municipal Government Act, we really need to look at this. It is something that is part of our requirements to do this. Not requirements, I guess, is something that I think we should do. But I guess my problem is just with the timing, and I think it could be done in the fall as part of and the study done and then brought forward as a budgetary item. The other thing that could be done procedurally is the motion could be amended to call for the study to be done after the end of the current situation. So those are the two things I'd look for your direction on here or guidance on here, CAO Hughes.
Your Worship, so there is a motion on the floor, and any council member can make a motion to amend that motion or to defer the motion.
Okay, as part of the discussion, does anyone want to do anything in that regard? I guess the two options are we can amend the motion or we can proceed to the vote.
I move we proceed to the vote.
I agree.
Okay.
For the
Any other-
record, let's have the vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3-4. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Three against. And I'll cast a deciding vote to defer or to, again, I'll vote against the motion. Because
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is the sustainability. I'll ask Councillor McDougall to give that report, and I believe you have a resolution as well.
I do, Your Worship, if you bear with me here for 1 second.
Can I ask the question, Your Worship? With the report, I never see Darren's, there's no report attached to it here. I know Gary had his, this is the first one, but I never see Gary's report or Darren's report attached to the sustainability.
I have a report here, Councillor Gallant. I can forward it to you. I'm going to reference it here now. If you want me to forward it to you after I'm done, does that
Sure.
work for you?
That'd be great, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Darren.
So the Sustainability Committee hasn't met since the 1st of March. We had a little bit of correspondence there regarding some issues, but nothing recently. So I'm just going to highlight some points in the Sustainability Committee. I'll start with the Think Stratford. At this time, businesses are reopening and pivoting to change their service models. And now more than ever, we're encouraging residents of Stratford to support local and look after the businesses and the residents in our community that have continued to serve our community through this pandemic. The PACE program, of which there is a resolution today, an update on it. Stratford is joining, along with the city of Charlottetown, the towns of Wolfville and Kentville, and PACE Atlantic to develop an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to develop and implement a property assessed clean energy program, which is PACE. Residential and commercial property owners will be able to apply for loans against their property value to implement energy efficiency improvements and or install renewable energy. It will include a pre-screening tool, a streamlined online application process, and coordination with provincial programs. It's one of the projects identified in the Community Energy Plan to help the community meet greenhouse gas reduction targets. The Strafford submitted an application. Now I'm moving on from discussion about PACE, the Sustainable Communities Program. We have, in relation to it, we've submitted an application to the Provincial Sustainable Communities Program to create a Beyond Net Zero community campus. This means that facilities will be designed to avoid energy use, and renewable energy generation will be installed to meet or exceed the remaining energy requirements. This project will help Stratford to meet its corporate greenhouse gas reduction targets. It's a good opportunity for our community, and it's in keeping with our commitment to a sustainable community. I'd like to move on now to the resolution. If anybody has questions or concerns before I do that, go ahead.
One thing, Darren, that I think would line up with sustainability in your report would be the, and maybe Robert can elaborate more, but the funding we applied for the, I wasn't sure if it would go under campus or under you, but Robert can probably elaborate more on the funding or the programming we applied for in the province under sustainability. I forget the name of the program, Robert, but a little background on that might be good.
Yes, it's a Sustainable Communities Initiative that Councillor McDougall mentioned. Yeah. It's essentially a program the province started to invite submissions from communities, which could mean a city block or an official community like ours, to promote or to suggest innovative ideas for renewable energy and energy efficiency, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And the idea is that they will help the communities to figure out the detail of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done and what it will cost, and hopefully also have some funding available to help communities implement those programs. So we did send our application in, and program manager responded very positively to our application. So thank you very much. It looks like a very exciting application, and we look forward to working with you on it. So I'm hopeful that it will lead to some great discussions with the province.
Any other questions?
Okay, please proceed to the resolution then.
Town of Stratford Resolution SC001-2020 FCM PACE application approval. Whereas Council adopted a community energy plan which includes targets to reduce community greenhouse gas emissions, and whereas Stratford ran a pilot program, SPEAR, Stratford's program for energy audits and renewables, to make it easier for residents and businesses to reduce energy use through efficiency improvements and increase renewable energy production based on the property assessed clean energy PACE concept, whereby funds are advanced to property owners to cover the capital costs of improvements which are paid back from savings in electricity and fuel costs. And whereas Stratford has joined the City of Charlottetown, the towns of Wolfville and Kentville in Nova Scotia, and the PACE Atlantic Community Interest Corporation to develop an application to FCM for loan and grant funding to offer a PACE program to the residents and businesses of these communities. Be it resolved that the Stratford Town Council endorse the submission of a joint application with the City of Charlottetown and the towns of Wolfville and Kentville to Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, for $10 million in low-interest loans and $5 million in grant money to enable the implementation of a PACE program in each community. Endorse the attached memorandum of understanding among the municipalities and PACE Atlantic, and endorse the implementation of a PACE program in Stratford and direct staff to develop a bylaw to enable the implementation of the program in accordance with sections 206 and 207 of the Municipal Government Act. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole as discussed at a meeting held on June 5th, 2020.
So moved. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion on this? Any questions or comments?
I would like to speak on this. I will be voting in favor of this today for the following reasons. I believe that seniors and low-income families will benefit from this, but also this will create jobs for local businesses within and outside of Stratford, which is much needed in this day and age. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Your Worship, I have some comments.
Yeah, please proceed. Go ahead.
I believe that this is going to have a major impact on town employees. There's going to be a cost with this. We'll be involving lawyers and putting liens on properties if faulty payments, doing credit checks, whatever else goes with that. They quoted in their presentation that what is the average annual operation cost for running the PACE Atlantic program, and they say that it's one town employee. So we're going to get one of our town employees to be dedicated totally to this program. Pace Atlantic stated that there will be staff training for the staff, for financial personnel with PACE best practices and workflows associated with securing debts. We're going to be doing that. LIL billing and collections. PEI has very little LIC billing projects experience. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's in their quote. It sounds like it's going to be a large percentage of the town employee to be involved with this program. Pace Atlantic stated in their report, this is in their report, their own words, not mine, COVID-19, with COVID-19, there's a higher than expected number of default payments. That's their words.
Yeah.
They also say lack of internal staffing capacity and competency, and Pace Atlantic risk. The risk, here's the risk that they're saying. Environmental presents a host of variables that could impact the financial viability of the program. This is a time of uncertainty for municipalities and their residents and businesses. Now, they also, in their report, have a section on the unknown. How can program marketing and communications be handled in the social distancing world? When can contractors safely resume work in people's homes? It's the unknown. We don't know when that could take place. I think when you look at the risks and the unknowns, and with only 4 municipalities in the Maritimes, I believe, that took this on, which I question why only 4. I cannot support this motion. I believe it's a major project. It's going to be a cost to the taxpayers of Stratford. And like we mentioned earlier, we're talking about timing for everything, and I'm not sure this is the right time to take a program like this on. So I will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you for your comments, Deputy Mayor Clow. Any other comments or questions on this?
I'd like to comment, Your Worship.
Yeah, please proceed.
Deputy Mayor Clow brought up a few good points. I understand. I agree with the PACE program in principle, but I'm totally against the timing. And I realize that there is a deadline of this month for us to approve this, but they should have readjusted their deadline due to COVID. Deputy Mayor Clow brought up pretty well the points that I wanted to bring up about the risk and that contractors are not coming into people's homes like we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. So I would like to defer this whole PACE application till things get back to the new normal. I'll be voting against this resolution.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Councillor McDonald. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay.
Can we back?
And then Councillor Burridge. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Do you want to second the motion for deferral presented by Councillor McDonald?
I didn't hear a motion there. Is that a specific motion, Councillor McDonald?
Your Worship, I don't think that's an option, but perhaps CAO Hughes could respond to that with regards to the deadline, and if we can put it off or defer it.
Yeah, we're working under FCM targets here, so we do have to either decide that we're in or we're not in at this meeting. But the program itself won't actually be implemented until 2021. So I don't know what the pandemic or what the future is going to look like, but we're just putting an application into FCM now. There's a lot of steps still to go before we actually implement this, and it won't be until at least the beginning of next year probably before we would start. So yeah, we do have to make the decision now. If we don't join, then the other 3 municipalities will probably go ahead without us and make the application to FCM. And just in terms of, if I have, when I have the floor, they approached municipalities that were in Atlantic, or actually in PEI in Nova Scotia only, who were already down this road. We did a community energy plan and approved it in Stratford, and Charlottetown has since approved a community energy plan for the city of Charlottetown. And it's only those communities that were approached because we're the ones who are actually thinking about this and have a plan in place for it. They do hope to eventually approach other communities who are not as far along once we get this program up and running and show it to be successful. Then Pace Atlantic does have plans to expand the program. But Newfoundland and New Brunswick will have to modify their legislation. They don't have legislation that allows for this program to take place, whereas Nova Scotia and PEI do. Nova Scotia was the first in the country to do it, and Halifax was the first program, the Solar City program in Halifax. The partners who are involved in Pace Atlantic were the folks who designed and implemented that program in Halifax.
Okay.
I have another comment, Your Worship.
Yeah, sure,
Here's
go
a
ahead.
follow-up to CAO Hughes. So we'd have the option to opt in at a later date, Robert?
My understanding is that, yes, that they will eventually be looking for other communities to join, but not necessarily in the same terms. Right now we're hoping to access FCM money so we can offer low interest loans to our residents and our businesses. But in the future, the idea is that the program will roll out and it'll be the market rate for the loans that eventually take over. We could offer this program like ourselves without getting FCM money, but the FCM money will help us to keep the admin costs down, and it will help us to offer lower interest loans. So I would say, yes, we could do it later, but we wouldn't get the same advantages as we're getting by doing it now in terms of the cost to our ratepayers.
Okay, so with that, Councillor McDonald, do you want to make a motion to amend, or are you comfortable with that answer?
Once again, Robert, with that deadline looming, can we amend this resolution?
Yeah, I don't think there's any sense in deferring it because it's the same thing as voting against it. So I think you should just vote on whether you're in or out. And if we're out, then we're out, and we will have a chance, as you say, at some point in the future to revisit the program. But deferring it really isn't an option in terms of the specific resolution, which is to join an application to FCM, which will be submitted whether we're part of it or not.
Okay, thank you. I think Councillor Burridge was waiting to speak. Sorry, you have another question, Councillor McDonald?
Just as a follow-up, you mentioned that we wouldn't have the same option later, Robert. Do you know that for a fact, or are you assuming that?
No, I know that FCM is keen to get some money out there to have people try these programs. And I know that in the past, actually FCM is very positive on this application, really happy to see it. But I know that in the past, when we've applied for FCM funding for something, and then we want to go back later, we've been denied because there's so much, usually so much demand for those programs. They try to spread it out and make sure all municipalities get it. So it's not impossible that there'll be FCM funding available in future if you want to apply for it. But as part of this program, it's less likely that this program would be able to access it again because there'll be other municipal groups, and that's what they're hoping for, coming forward looking for that funding. So I can't say for certain, but I think the chances are less that we would get it in future.
And Robert, this was open to all municipalities then in Nova Scotia and PEI?
No, the Pace Atlantic group, it was previously Equilibrium Engineering, sought out those municipalities that they thought were ready for it. So what logic they used to select those municipalities, I'm not sure. But I know it was our leadership and our SPEAR pilot program and our community energy plan that drew them to us.
Okay, I guess we'll ask Councillor Burridge to speak, and then if she still wishes to speak, and then we'll proceed to the vote if that's okay with everyone. Councillor Burridge, did you want to say something?
Yeah, when we were working through this it's kind of been on our work plan for a while. When we're at the point where the town was going to have to act as somewhat of a bank to negotiate this, I was against it. But now that FCM has stepped up, and my belief is energy PEI, energy or efficiency PEI is also behind this as well and supporting us in this endeavor. It aligns perfectly with our strategic plan, our mission, vision of the town. This fits well with us, and we've done a lot of work on the community energy plan and other issues and the other projects in the past that led into this. So I think my vote will be for it. I think also, I spoke earlier about like finding ways that the town can help in the recovery from COVID, and I think this is a way we can help in that economic recovery. There'll be some work there for people locally to do, and I think that's a good thing. So I will be voting for it.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I'll just maybe briefly ask if anyone who hasn't already spoken would like to say anything. If not, we'll proceed to the vote.
I'd like to have one comment just before the vote.
Okay, just make it brief.
Yeah, I just for the record, we're voting on this program not knowing the cost of the town. Am I right in that?
You're asking,
I'm asking Robert Hughes. We're voting on this Atlantic Pace program not knowing the cost that it's going to be to the town. Am I right in saying that?
There's planned to be no out-of-pocket costs to the town. FCM application requires 20% co-pay if you want, and that funding is coming from in-kind and from potentially accessing funding from external and other programs. So we're not asking for any budget money from the town. It will take some of town staff time, as I indicated. Will take some time in finance department. It will take some time for the new environmental coordinator, but I don't anticipate it taking a huge amount of time. And if we compared it to some of the other initiatives that we identified, well, we actually identified doing a program like this in the community energy plan. It's drastically reduced from what it would be if we tried to do it on our own, as we did go down the road with the Spirit pilot program. So no out-of-pocket costs, some staff time required.
Okay, with that, I'm going to call for the question now. I'll ask all those in favor to indicate by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Contrary minded? Okay, 2 opposed. Motion carried. Okay, next item on our agenda is the. Oh, I'm sorry. You've got. Do you have anything else on your report, Councillor McDougall?
I do not, Your Worship. That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you for your report. Now move to my report, the Accountability and Engagement Committee. And I'm just going to find that information here. Just in terms of my report, the town of Stratford would like to acknowledge that we stand with the Black community. The recent death of George Floyd and others, along with acts of hatred and violence towards any individual or group, leaves us with great sadness. As a municipality, we continue to embrace diversity, equality, and inclusion in our community and strongly condemn any acts of bigotry. We stand with all those feeling the pain and fear that comes from prejudice and racism, and are committed to doing better, to learning more, and to sharing our community with all. So that I just wanted to make that point with regard to the Black Lives Matter. I know the town did take a lot of action. We on social media and on our town sign, digital sign at the bridge, just to indicate our solidarity with the being against racism and prejudice. So I just wanted to make that point. And I go back to the comments of Councillor Smith as part of the Safety Services Committee. We're really lucky to live in this community, but at the same time, we have to each do our part to make sure that we deal with any, confront and deal with any prejudice and racism that we encounter, and we try to do better in our town and in the things that we control. So to learning more into making sure that our community is equally available to everyone, all the benefits of our community. The second thing in my report, I wanted to point out the records management bylaw. Stratford's adopting a new records management bylaw to blend our existing records management policy requirements with those of the new Municipal Government Act to create a comprehensive records management program where records are filed, stored, kept, or disposed of in accordance with the retention schedule. So I just wanted to make those 2 points. I do have a resolution that I'll ask my Deputy Chair of Accountability and Engagement, Councillor Jill Burridge, to read and present and move.
All right, AE 004 2020 Records Management Bylaw. Whereas Council established a records management policy in 2008 to classify and set retention periods for files. And whereas Section 117 of the Municipal Government Act requires municipalities to establish a records retention and disposal schedule, and the records retention regulations sets out retention and disposal requirements for certain files. And whereas a new records retention bylaw was drafted to meet the Act and regulation requirements, and to continue current records management practices and classification to the greatest extent possible. Be it resolved that the records retention bylaw number 51, be hereby read and approved the first time. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole Council as discussed at a meeting held on June 5th, 2020. So moved.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Okay, any comments or questions on the resolution? If not, we'll proceed to the question. All those in favor indicate by raising your right
Aye.
hand. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, with that, thank you for presenting the resolution, Councillor Burridge. Now we'll move to the Human Resources. No report.
Nothing there, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we go to item 18, inquiries by members of council. Any inquiries that a member of council would like to raise at this time?
Your Worship, I would like to acknowledge a person within Stratford. Is that the time to do it now, or would it fall under other business?
You can do it now. It would normally fall under other business, but go ahead, you got the floor.
Okay, just like to inform the council, long-term resident of Stratford and a member of Ward 1 and a volunteer within the town, Pat Martell, after 33 years of working with CBC, has been given a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Radio, Television, Digital News Association. This award recognizes outstanding service and continuous excellence in journalism. Just as a footnote, Pat Martell was one of the main driving forces behind a number of April 1st Fool jokes on CBC, 3 of which were the toll booth at Highway 2 and Hunter River, the Tim Hortons in the roundabout, and my favorite, the nude bathers protest in Victoria Park. So anyway, congratulations to Pat Martell.
I'd also like to add my congratulations as well. I think that Pat has always, any of my dealings with him over the years, he's always been really fair-minded and really balanced, and really gave both points of view on all the stories. So really engaging, really great person and really great journalist. So I think that award is well deserved. Any other comments or any other inquiries by members of council at this time?
I'd like to concur there with Councillor Smith. I mean, Pat's on our events committee. He's a great resource to lean to. And it's, you know, it's a great asset for the town of Stratford. So congratulations, Pat.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 19. Unless there are any other inquiries by members of council. Okay, if not, we'll go to item 19, other committees. Stratford Seniors Complex, Chair, Councillor Gail McDonald.
Yes, Your Worship, my report for the Stratford Seniors. Oh, sorry. A couple of things. We are waiting now to get the draft statements back from the auditors on the seniors complex. The annual inspections that take place every year are going to be done June 17th and 18th this month. We put it down to just 2 inspectors due to COVID restrictions and to try to keep everyone safe. We're currently working on our capital replacement plan for 2020, and Jerry is assisting in this project. The spring cleanup has been done for the gardening contract, and we're just waiting on the river rock, which is on back order to replace any mulch around the building, which actually was done last year, but we're going to get the river rock placed down this year. That's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you for your report. Any comments or questions on the report? Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonald. We'll now move on to item 20, appointments to the committees. Anything there, Robert? No, if not, no proclamations. Any other business that any councillor would like to raise at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move.
Okay, thank you. We're now adjourned. Thank you.